Dear Washington, I don't mean to tell the government what to do, but I honestly believe that real estate agents who have boots on the ground, working with buyers and sellers, know what's going on in the economy before anyone else. The housing affordability crisis is on everyone's mind, and it's actually heartbreaking and really must be solved now so people can afford to live in this country. As a 25-year real estate veteran, I'm going to share my own humble 5-point plan that I hope some politicians in Washington will listen to, consider, and who knows, maybe even adopt. And also, I'll share one really super bad idea to be avoided. I'm just one of millions of real estate agents, but based on a career in this business, I believe this plan could have a huge impact on us all. So I remember in 2005, at the height of that market, a full 2 years before the great housing crash, any realtor who was paying attention knew it was not only unsustainable, but that something really, really bad was going to happen. We didn't know exactly how bad, but 2 years later, it did, and it was even worse than we predicted. But to us, it was inevitable. And still the broader markets were humming along and no one was even talking about it.
No one is paying attention.
Even Wall Street got fooled. Well, everyone's talking about it now, but no one seems to be coming up with a plan. So here's my humble 5-point plan, and do with it what you will. You're welcome. Okay, so the first major part of the plan is called portable mortgage rates. There's just not enough housing out there, and that dynamic alone has been driving prices up because sellers don't want to move, or they can't afford to move because they're locked into a really low interest rate from the past. So portability allows them to take their low interest rate with them when they buy their next home, whether they're trading up or trading down. And this already exists in some other countries like Canada and the UK. But before the bankers jump down my throat, I get it. If a seller took with them or ported a 3% mortgage into a 7% environment, the bank would lose 4% yield. So the lender is going to want to be protected so it doesn't lose money. Fair enough. So let me provide a few guardrails that can make this first idea work. One option is a small portability fee that helps the lender offset the difference between the old low rate and today's higher rates. Another is that the borrower gets to keep their low interest rate only on their existing loan balance or what's left on their current mortgage, and any extra amount they borrow for the new home would be at the current market rate. This keeps banks from getting stuck with too much low interest debt. Another guardrail for that idea that protects the bank: if portable mortgages do become popular, then they charge a higher rate on the loans from the start. So say you get a 4% loan today and maybe 4.25% if you think you might want to port that rate on another home in the future. So this is sort of an optional premium that protects the bank long term. Another rule could allow a seller to keep their low rate and take it with them when they buy the next house. Is that they stay with that same lender, so the bank keeps a client and guarantees its relationship for the future. And the last safeguard could be the federal government giving portability credits to the lender. So with any of these protections in place, portable mortgages become a win-win. Homeowners are no longer trapped in their low interest rate, buyers get more inventory to choose from, and banks remain financially whole. The second idea in my 5-point plan is a permanent first-time homebuyer credit. Now the emphasis here is on permanent, and here's why it shouldn't be temporary. So I can tell you this for a fact. Most first-time buyers don't struggle with the monthly payment. That's not the problem. They struggle with coming up with the upfront cash to get in the game, the down payment, and the closing costs. So I'm going to tell you how this should work and why it should be permanent. Right after the housing market crash of 2008, the government created a temporary credit for first-time buyers, and it worked for a few months, and it juiced the market. But once the program ended, the market went right back down again. I know because I was there. But worse, it drove home prices up and competition up for buyers. So here's the twist. A smart way to make a permanent first-time homebuyer credit actually work is to limit the credit so it can only be used for the down payment and closing costs. And by directing it only to those two expenses, you help buyers where they need it most without giving sellers a reason to raise prices. This keeps the market from overheating because buyers can't use it to bid higher, and instead it just reduces the amount they need to save, lowers the size of their loan, and gives them more equity and financial stability from day one. It also makes it harder for investors or flippers to abuse the credit. In other words, it's a highly targeted, low-risk way to help first-time buyers enter the market without pushing home prices up even further. The third idea in the plan is to open up inventory and get sellers to sell is a national sell to a first-time buyer incentive. So if they sell to a first-time buyer, the seller gets a tax credit, maybe a capital gains reduction, and even a closing cost subsidy. This idea would instantly shift housing inventory toward first-time buyers who struggle the most to find a home. The fourth idea is to limit corporate ownership of single-family homes. Okay, not eliminate it, just limit it. So we've all seen bidding wars where regular home buyers get boxed out and lose to corporate institutions buying up houses for REITs, which are real estate investment trusts, and hedge funds. It's awful, and it's not even close to a fair fight. By limiting the number of houses an institution can buy in a certain localized or geographical area, this would open up the supply of homes to regular buyers who don't stand a chance trying to compete with giant institutions. It's just plain bad for the economy for corporations to buy up all the single-family homes in the United States. So I'm going to get to that really bad idea in a minute, but the fifth idea is a build-to-sell program. In other words, federal and state governments incentivize lenders to lend and builders to build homes at ultra-low tax rates only if the homes are capped at an affordable price for the region. Builders don't like to build affordable homes, well, not anymore, because the margins are too thin. To them, the profit isn't big enough and the juice isn't worth the squeeze. They prefer to build luxury homes. But if they were incentivized with, say, a reduced corporate tax rate, this would spur them to build affordable homes while bonus taking the burden off government to build affordable housing. Okay, so let's get to that bad idea that some other countries are using, one that I don't like at all, and that's the 50-year mortgage. And I think it's a bad idea for a lot of reasons, but mostly because it's a massively higher total cost to the buyer. They pay a higher interest rate for an extra 20 years, nearly doubling the total interest they would have paid on a 30-year loan, and all the while dramatically reducing equity that they hold in the house because very little of the principal will be paid down for the first 10 or 20 years of the loan. So if they ever got into financial trouble along the way or needed to refinance or take out a home equity loan, it would be really hard, if not impossible. And then there's the longer debt burden. The borrower could still be paying the mortgage well into their 80s and 90s, impacting retirement and maybe even burdening heirs with debt. So if you can't tell, I think a 50-year mortgage is a bad idea. So I really think that any one of these or combination of this five-point plan would have a huge impact on housing affordability, but all five, that would be amazing. So thanks for listening, Washington, and please do hit subscribe, and I'll be covering the real estate market on an ongoing basis and have lots to share. So I'll see you next time.